How's it going, guys? It's Eclipse here, and welcome to quite possibly one of the weirdest tanks Wargaming have ever introduced into World of Tanks console. We are looking at the FV4003 AVRE, and this is a Centurion. So this tank, yes, because it has a huge gun, does indeed have huge alpha damage, and 1,400 is the exact amount. Now, this tank only gets 2 rounds, and these 2 rounds are, of course, the British Hesh rounds. And they are fairly well in terms of penetration on the standard compared to the premium. The problem is that the premium penetration on the second round, which is your premium round in quotation marks because it's not really that much of a premium round, but essentially you'll get an extra roughly like 60 penetration, 55 I think if we're going to be exact, or something like that. But essentially what you have with this tank is that you get the opportunity to either have more penetration up to 240 mil, which means you can go through most tanks from the front. If you talk about mediums and maybe some of the lightly armoured heavy tanks, stuff like that, of course you are going to have to aim at weak points and things, but at the end of the day, you know, you can still have good games when looking at this thing in particular. But the key thing is that this is a Centurion that has a massive gun, and does it really stack up in the game? Now, what are the statistics of this vehicle? Straight away we have a fairly decent kind of array of different stats. Now, this is a fairly well balanced tank in my opinion. You get good view range, but you're not particularly that well in camo. You get amazing damage per minute, 4,424, as well as having okay accuracy when you kind of think about everything that this tank has. 0.34 accuracy at 100 meters means that it's fairly okay. You're not really struggling with a whole lot in terms of accuracy. It's still not fantastic, and you do have to fully aim, and it takes you a while to aim, but when you do manage to finally get that shot off, and hoping that it actually hits with the shell velocity that you have with this thing, 685 meters a second, meaning it is literally like a HE round, and a bad one at that, meaning that you're going to have to take ages to be able to get that shell towards the opponent that you're firing at. So long range sniping in this thing is not going to work. But either way, there's enough talking about this vehicle. It's enough showcasing it in the garage. Of course, the new garage, for those of you that don't already know, we have got the old new garage in the game. And there is actually an option where you can go back to the old garage. If you really don't want it, then you can return to the standard one that we've been seeing for the last few years. But I am much happier to see this garage, since we can look around the tank all the way around, making it a nice addition rather than the tank spinning. And of course, to do that, you just hold the right stick in. As you can see, you can swap between this and you can have a look at the vehicle just as an addition to this video. Thought it might be helpful to some of you guys. But let's jump into the replays, and I'll see you in a second. So what better way to showcase this tank than to actually play it live on this video? We're going to be showcasing this tank in all its glory, and maybe not so much of the glory. We have no idea how it's going to end up, but I'm hoping to talk about a few things. And the first thing that we can talk about is the gun depression. Now, the tank apparently has 9 degrees of gun depression, and quite rightly it does have 9 degrees of gun depression, but it definitely doesn't get 9 degrees of gun depression over the front of the vehicle. As you can see, this is the max depression you can get. And you'll actually notice that if we go into the view, you can suddenly see, as soon as you get past that point, you kind of drop down, and it's this side armor that makes a massive difference. So you only get 9 degrees over the side of this vehicle. The front of the vehicle, you probably end up with like, what, 1 degree maybe even less, I don't even know. But that means that when you are trying to use ridge lines, you are having to overexpose the majority of your tank to the opponents that you're trying to go after, which obviously is never good. And you can see this is the optimal angle for us to be able to shoot people dead ahead of us, because as soon as we don't, this is the view that you get. And I'm sure many of you have seen this view if you have picked up this vehicle already, and it certainly is a vehicle worth picking up in my opinion. It is a tier 10 it's only costing you 4,000 gold. If you factor in the fact that if you were going to buy the season pass anyway, then it literally is only costing you an extra 4,000 gold, and you get a load of bonuses for actually picking up this tank as well. So there's really no reason why you wouldn't pick up this unless you just genuinely didn't have the money, which is absolutely fine. But at the end of the day, if you are wanting a very good kind of fun tank to play, then this is certainly one of them, and I would recommend you guys actually take a look and try and pick this thing up if you do have the funds available in your account. Remember that you usually will earn your money back from playing the game, so during the season, so you may even be able to actually pay for free for this vehicle. Now, one thing that you just saw there was that the round, although I aimed in the right direction, didn't actually hit where we were aiming, and that's because these are like golf rounds. So where I'm aiming, that is the destination point of where this round is going to hit. So if you were trying to lead your vehicle, then you cannot consistently do it because of the fact that you have these golf rounds that fly up into the sky and land down on your opponent. So if I'm aiming at this place right here, or a tank, and then it suddenly moves and it's not actually there, or you're shooting at something that isn't quite there yet, you're actually going to hit whatever is behind the vehicle that you're aiming at. So this is really, really annoying, and it means that in a vehicle like this, you're not going to be able to do what you were hoping to, and that's really where I think that this tank can be a little bit lackluster, and where it is super annoying when you play it to have that come up when you're playing. But right here, we're seeing the Object 430, we've got the Jaegeru. Maybe we can actually get a shell into the back of the Object 430, and we can. There we go, the first full penetration with the Centurion AV in today's game. Maybe we'll get another one, I have no idea. If the Jaegeru stays where he is, we're actually running this tank with the opportunity to swap rounds. Since the Jaegeru is now on a decent hit points, we swap to the Premium Hesh. It does get lower alpha, but we can actually guarantee a penetration, so I'm going to take that 1,000 damage or 1,100 damage as opposed to going for the potential 300 or 400 that you might get with a different vehicle. Now the Jaegeru has indeed turned side on really easily there, and now it's a case of trying to avoid being YOLO'd by the enemy team. So I think it might be time to actually try and hightail it out of here. Maybe we'll get hit by the Centurion on the enemy team, maybe we won't. Maybe we'll get YOLO'd by this heavy tank, I have no idea, but we're going to try and hightail it out of here, having done 4,000 damage so far. So we need some team support. This tank is not a solo individual, so if you are going to try and play it like a solo individual, I'd highly recommend you don't. Not that that's going to help you if you're wanting to play it like that, but at least you'll be able to get an understanding that you probably don't want to be YOLOing with this thing. Similarly, you don't want to be coming up against enemy Centurions because they will rinse you, especially when you are giving them a little plate like I was. So, we are now on the long reload. We have an AMX on the enemy team who for some reason didn't actually fully aim, and that allows us to now go after him. Maybe we can help reload him, I have no idea, but we're going to pull all the way back and allow him to potentially come up. Maybe we'll be able to then get the shell into him, and we can get away with dealing some extra damage on him. Now he's going to try and side scrape, which is not a good idea. Into him, the Centurion's going to come over and he's just going to derp us, it doesn't matter. But we still picked up 5,000 damage, which isn't awful, but certainly it could have been better. We just needed some team support, and this is where this tank really sucks, is that if you can't pen the tanks that you're coming up against, and you're in this sort of matchup where you're hoping to deal a lot of damage, or you're trying to kind of secure the victory, if you're trying to carry or anything like that, then this tank really isn't where it's at, because of that fact that you are going to have to come up against multiple tanks all at once. They don't usually come up one by one, and so when they do, it really feels horrible, and you have to be very, very mindful of that. Now, our 268 version 5 here, for some reason, didn't actually aim. I mean, the tank is not hard to pen in terms of being able to consistently deal damage to the Centurion AVRE, and so, yeah, I don't know what I was thinking there. But But either way, I'll join you in the next battle. Let's get straight into some more, and I'll see you there. So, our next replay here on Westfield, and yet again, we are live. I don't know if you can spam the buttons, but we are live. We're going to be testing out this tank using the turret armor. Now, of course, it is a Centurion, so at the end of the day, the turret armor should be somewhat decent. And by somewhat decent, I mean you shouldn't get automatically penned by people. You do have that cupola that can be penned on the top of the tank, so most people will be able to pen that, as well as the fact that this is not the upgraded Centurion 7/1 turret, or maybe it is actually, but essentially it's not necessarily the most well-armoured vehicle on the turret, because you can be penned in the roof of the turret as well. If people get a slap of the top of the tank or a little slab of the top of the tank, you're going to be getting penned really easily. So yet again, not particularly very fun, but either way we can secure some points, or at least some damage hopefully in this game. Or maybe we'll see what this tank is like when you come up against other Centurion AVREs, as I'm sure you're going to be seeing an absolute butt ton within the game, which is really annoying. I mean, well, it's not annoying, but the fact that you're seeing so many is going to be horrible if you are playing any of your glass cannon tanks in the game. I would highly recommend you do not play any Guerrilla 15s. I would highly recommend you do not play any of your kind of paper medium tanks, or any of the back chats or anything like that. That is going to be an absolute pain right now, because these tanks are just going to ruffle stomp through you. There's going to be at least 2 on the enemy team, if not more, which is obviously not very fun. So yeah, just be aware that as you kind of play during the next few days, you're going to be finding yourself up against some vehicles, and they are not fun whatsoever when coming up against them with these paper tanks. But hopefully we can hold back the opponents on this flank. I know that there's a ton of people over here. The whole point is that we do need to actually keep them spotted, and of course provide some support up here. If we lose this area, it usually is just an instant loss in the game, so we want to make sure that that isn't going to be the case. We see ourselves a Sturm Tiger, so we go for the shot, which is super annoying, but we did actually hit the track, so there's no real surprise there. But at this point I'm starting to think maybe it would be worth going after this Centurion AVRE, since we are going to now have to retreat back over the hill to provide some support. It might be worth actually going for this guy. We're going to go for that upper edge. Of course it doesn't pen, because why would you want to pen? And for some reason this guy appears like he doesn't want to know me, and is actually just looking in the complete wrong direction. No idea what's going on here, but maybe we can actually pen him. We're going to actually try and turn. I guarantee you that he pens us though, and we don't manage to pen. But what we can do is maybe get our gun in the way, and get up from behind, just be a nuisance. So if we were aiming 100%, or maybe if we decided that we were actually going to fire these like premium HE rounds, then it would have probably come off better. But we do go for the weak point, which is definitely a weak point of this vehicle. If you are playing in some of the same vehicles and you're coming up against this, you can use that as a weak point. Now, I believe the Iron Army is going to get a shell on me, but I'm hoping that what we can do is get further over here. The vehicle is going to now take hits against us. We can basically just sit here and keep him lighted for all of the team to kind of spot, and we can basically just sit here being annoying. And that's exactly what this tank is going to be doing for the next few weeks, when everyone is grinding out their gun marks, if they do decide to actually play in this thing. I mean, I don't know whether it's going to be that much of a problem as the game goes on and through the weeks of the season, but certainly at the minute it's going to be horrible for the majority of players when decided to play with the tanks. But either way, we in this game need to start doing something. We have kind of been a bit stale at this moment in time, and I'm starting to think maybe we could get a shell onto one of these, maybe the Jaegeru's side, and much like earlier, we do manage to actually get a shell on the side of the vehicle, and it ends up being quite nice. Now, we don't want to get hit by the Sturm Tiger, so we're going to pull right the way back, and of course he somehow manages to hit with the accuracy of that absolute barn door blast cannon. Now we're going to get hit again, I guarantee it. Yep, of course we do. and yeah, maybe a misplay by me by actually trying to push up, but either way, we don't want to get hit by any more HE rounds. They are going to finish off if they don't already, but maybe we should just take it. I mean, we need to get at least some more damage to secure a decent game, but yeah, maybe we could just pre-aim this area over here, and we'll go for that shell. Taking out again, 1 RNG for our team to deal with, and at this point it's just kind of trying to save up as much of that health that we can and help out our team as much as possible, because we are probably going to get taken out. They're going to start coming from over there, and when we don't have the easiest of flexibility, I mean, the front is literally the part of the vehicle that is going to be a pain in the backside for most people to come up against. Now the Centurion on the enemy team is actually coming around from the side for some reason, and maybe we'll be able to get a shell into him. I don't know if he knows that we're here, but we will go for that shell. Damage since we hit the spaced armor. Not surprised there, but there we go. It is what it is. But we are having now to try and use our teammate in the Centurion's health pool to hopefully get some support, or at least avoid taking damage ourselves. The M47 is actually out in the open, and I'm hoping we'll be able to get a shell into him, because that would be ideal. If we can get him out the game, that would certainly help our cause out, but it's not looking like he wants to come and play. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. He does, but there's a massive side of this tank, and if you actually want to be able to hit anyone, you're going to have to expose yourself. And that's really what this tank is. Super kind of random. It's fun to play. It's not so fun to come up against. It's going to be HEing you. You're going to be losing crew modules all of the time. At this moment in time, for those of you not wanting to purchase this tank or come up against it, or if you are just playing tier 10 or grinding tier 8, at this moment in time, it is imperative that you take your first aid kits in the game, because if you don't, if you're running fuel boost, you will most certainly be finding yourself getting set on fire. You'll find yourself getting your crew members knocked out. All of these things is going to happen, and it's going to happen a lot more with these things rolling around, firing tons of HE and having the stupid module damage that a 163mm tank will have in the game. But hopefully that gave you an indication straight away as to what this vehicle is going to be like in game. And yeah, a little couple of games that were, you know, quick off the bat, one after the other, and hopefully you did enjoy. Of course, check out some of the other content coming out soon on the channel by sticking around, and of course subscribing, as it massively helps it out. We are at 14,000 subs now, which is absolutely crazy. I'm blown away by the amount of support, and on the PC channel we've just reached 2,000 subs, which is just amazing as well. So yeah, it's been going crazy these last couple of years, but thank you all for supporting me, and of course beware of the Centurion AVRE. They're going to be devastating. Thank you and goodbye.